Oh, that's right. I forgot that I need to change the look of this. Well. There we go. Now it's a little more me. If you've seen the other parts, you get bragging rights in the comments, but if you haven't, click the eye in the corner to do so right now. Otherwise, here's a quick refresher on the rules and score metrics just in case anyone needs them. Also click the join button to become a member. So, as a reminder, this is the only other Mario Kart game that I never grew up with. But unlike with SNES Kart, where I at least had a little bit of experience playing it before working on this series, I have never played Super Circuit before. So I had no idea what to expect aside from hearing everyone say, it's just average, it's not that interesting, it's just another Mario Kart, it's a giant step backwards from 64. And you know what? Yeah, I am not gonna sugarcoat it. This game actually slapped, and more people need to realize it. And remember, I have no nostalgia for this game, so if anything, I had a bias against this game, and I was still mad impressed with it. Just as I was mad at the lies I kept hearing. You gain nothing from lying to the people! I've heard people say that this is just Mario Kart 64 on GBA, and while I get where it's coming from, having the same roster and voice clips and all, but even then it's the Japanese voices for some reason, which means we don't get to hear I still wouldn't agree with that. I prefer to call this a better version of SNES Kart in every conceivable way. And I'm not saying that because that game's course lineup is also here, but because it's got the same style of drifting, similar camera angle, nigh indistinguishable skill-based driving, virtually unchanging usage of coins on the road, and homogeneous musical style. Which is a weird thing to say in this context, but I was on a roll and wanted to keep using big words. But unlike SNES Kart, where its physics were too slippery and its courses were Bowser Castle 3 at best, pretty good at second best, and Super Circuit feels great to control, even if its physics are some of the most ridiculous you will ever see in a Mario Kart game. But that's what makes it amazing to me. In fact, going off of core gameplay, I'd say that I enjoy it more than 64 and DS. But that is just going off of core gameplay, as it does that thing from Mario Kart 64 where it can just randomly cause you to spin out because lame-o alert! But in theory, that should happen just as infrequently as in 64, so I won't dock too many points from it. But in terms of more prevalent factors, unlocking all of the courses is a very special kind of whoo boy! Being forced to replay every cup twice, with the second time requiring you to collect a total of 100 coins, repeating this for every individual CC class? This is asinine. No way around it. Especially since the reward for doing so is being able to race on tracks from a worse game that weren't even translated properly. How were kids back then supposed to know that they needed to do this? Why can't you just be able to unlock an extra cup if you collected a total of 100 coins the first time around? Why do you need to wait until you've played through every cup at least once before even attempting to unlock one of them? This is just padding out a game where the existence of padding makes about as much sense as you not subscribing to my channel or joining my membership program. No sense whatsoever! But for real though, whether or not you're subscribed, check your subscriptions tab anyway. You just never know when YouTube is going to stop recommending your favorite YouTubers to you because logic, reasoning, and lack thereof. But with all of that said, it's all worth it because Super Circuit has a surprisingly strong course lineup, contrary to most of its retro representation consisting of either a circuit or Bowser's Castle course for some reason. I mean, they could always do the Mario Kart World thing where they just don't bring back any courses from that game, especially since this is the first game in this ranking series to have a course enter the ever so iconic Supreme Tier. And there are 3 of them in this game. And on top of that, unlike the last 2 games, Super Circuit doesn't have a single course I can say is outright bad. Sure, not every course is all that brilliant, and there are a few lowlights here and there, but nothing to the same lows as the older 2 games. Again, when you ignore the SNES Kart lineup, which made most of them worse. But over the course of this ranking, I'm going to explain why I think this game's original courses are among the most underrated in the series and why Nintendo needs to get that hammered into their brains. Peach gets the beginner circuit of this game, and this is apparently the only time she ever got it. It has the castle in the background, it has the peach trees, and yes, those are peaches. They've always had a bit of orange tint to them. And it has this expanded road that act as training wheels for new players learning to drift for the first time. Because I can tell you drifting in this game is not as straightforward as you think. Mainly because the drifting here doesn't suck anal beads. Ayy! No beads. Okay. Like, it's still a basic first course, but I think it's got relatively memorable scenery. No clue why they brought it back in DS, especially since it included a better circuit course, but hey, that's just DS for you. No strong feelings one way or the other, 50 out of 100. Shy Guy Beach is probably the more interesting beginner's course of this game. There are some crabs to watch out for and some cannonballs that are never gonna hit you. But hey, I can respect the Wii version for making them bigger and treating them like Mip's gift to the princess, where you have a lot of room to get it away from you, but they're still a threat to you because these explosions are Demo Man's wet dream. The ending thin path is a cool pseudo shortcut. The cut at the beginning that leads to a little sand patch with a boat's worth of coins gives incentive to explore the course in its entirety, especially since you actually have a better chance of getting a mushroom given that there are item boxes before you can make the cut, thereby making the water terrain feel substantial. Koopa Beach 1! And using mushrooms across these cuts can be pretty fun. It's not special or anything, but I seem to like this course more than most people do. Another fun beach course smacked with a 64 out of 100. It may not be as good as the last beach, but it's a better score than anyone else is gonna give it, I'll tell you that much. Riverside Park introduces a jungle safari theme like what DK Jungle Parkway does, but I think that one fits the vibe better, at least visually. But this course still has some cool stuff, like there's this random river shortcut that doesn't look like a shortcut, but it's a charming way of fitting the course's theme. There's also this bridge, which is tough to utilize to its fullest, but feels so good to get right. Playing it normally isn't something special, but the shortcuts are really unique in how it foreshadows how you'll eventually be handling other courses in the future. This game is full of intriguing and even ridiculous shortcuts. A handful do require some exploitation of the game's physics, but others are about exploring a course in ways you would never think to. Like, who would have thought that you could make a jump like this with a mushroom alone? Or who would have guessed that you could make a shortcut by going into brighter water? Imagine that jungle safari vibe from DK's Jungle Parkway, but incorporated into the gameplay instead of the visuals. That's a fantastic idea for a Mushroom Cup course. And it once again makes it even weirder that Super Circuit didn't get a single retro in Mario Kart World, despite that game's mechanics seemingly utilizing that same idea. What, did you run out of Circuit or Bowser Castle courses? Because, oh wow, they actually did. Man, they really do refuse to include any course from Super Circuit that isn't a Circuit or a Bowser's Castle, huh? And I'm sure you would want me to rob a Christmas cream. Yes, I'm gonna go with that. I'm sure that you would want me to rob a Krispy Kreme on Christmas morning before glazing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's version, given that its visuals gave so much life to this course. Even if it still has those stupid SNES cart blocks that no one likes, it also has more vines in the trees, Patuis walking along the course while juggling items, and a waterfall section that you can jump through. It's immaculate, if not really short, which is why I decided not to rob that Krispy Kreme, because that actually does hinder it for me more than it does for most people. The shortcuts from the original version were replaced with, nothing, I guess. Personally, I would have liked to have seen them expanded upon. It's not like the BCP was a stranger to creating new shortcuts for a course. Hell, not even in the wave it debuted in. Don't get me wrong, I still like the new version. It's just that it'd be more of a B tier as opposed to being an A or an S tier like it seems to be for most other people. But overall, because of how much I like the original, I think I'd give it a 74 out of 100. Hey man, that's just C tier. What's the big idea? Well, there is one version of the course I've neglected to mention. The R variant of the Tour version added this dinosaur. And he makes me want to rob a tranquilizer factory so I can shoot the shit out of him. Look, I wanted to like the inclusion of the dinosaur, but that last turn is just insufferably difficult to go through without getting bounced around or, Martel forbid, squashed and robbed of all of your chances of winning the race. Yeah, I know the guy in my footage doesn't get crushed a single time, but if that's gonna be your defense for this course, then I'm gonna start gaslighting you into liking, look at how big this turn is, and then look at how thin the dinosaur makes the path. How does one even prepare for that? Who let this be a thing? Do you have any idea how many races it robs? It's not even fun, it's just incompetently designed. As awesome as the original is, and as enjoyable as the 8 Deluxe version is, this one dinosaur in Tour severely hinders its variants for me. I know I said Tour's variants weren't gonna have much consideration, but this variant in Tour is honestly so much worse than even SNES Koopa Beach 1. I am dead serious. Hang on, what's this now? A Bowser's Castle level in a Mushroom Cup? What is this? Super Mario Kart? This one was just fine. It's a better version of SNES Kart's Bowser's Castles, where there are some 90-degree turns and ramps with lava bubbles to avoid. But then again, being better than SNES Bowser Castle 1 is such a nothing accomplishment. And if anything, the fact that I'm even making that comparison in the first place means that this course is kinda dull. I get that it's a Mushroom Cup course, but when you consider what it's been offering before, this just kinda lets me down. And I especially can't understand why they brought it back in 7, but at least it has a glider ramp that had the Tony McToadbird circuitry, baby! Application of only appearing after the first lap, only this time it grants you access to this shortcut right here. It's too difficult for no reason and I hate it. But hey, at least it's a thing. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't at least a little nifty. It even got the RMX treatment and tour over the SNES Bowser Castle courses. It still got the same layout, but they mixed conveyor belts with the thwomps. And I kinda like how the conveyor belts swap directions each time, meaning that this shortcut can only be taken on one of the laps. I guess it's not super special for a 2-lap course, but it's still really cool. It's just that it's a pity that this is the most enjoyment I can get from this course. And even then, I think it's decent at best. So I think GBA Bowser Castle 1 as a whole gets a 47 out of 100. Not horrible, but there are better ways to have ended the Mushroom Cup given that this one is too much like a square, and again, is way too similar to SNES Bowser Castle 1. Mario Circuit is just a worse version of Peach Circuit, if I'm being honest. Did I just get a star in second place? Same visuals, same music, same vibes, but now we replace the peach trees and patterned tiles with tires! There are a couple of pit stops where one has coins and a dash panel, and another has an item box off-road. The former makes for a good catch-up path because it may be slightly longer at first, but if you hit that dash panel, you can actually get ahead of the other players by the end, assuming that they haven't crossed the finish line, making for a pretty good comeback mechanic. I would have preferred if it was a little further back, but I still like it. But the latter is nothing special. Just like its remake in Mario Kart 8. I've seen way too many people putting Krispy Kreme out of business because they are glazing this remake. But is it really that much better? Even if it has an anti-gravity section, all they did is just tilt the road a little bit. Mate, I can do that too. It's not that unique. It's just a glorified hill with a turn. There's honestly no reason to have used anti-gravity here at all. And you know what? Screw it. I think the original is better because Super Circuit's controls make it feel like a proper intermediate course. But I never said it was good. 41 out of 100. Saved by the pit stop at the end, and nothing else. I hit myself with that! Boo Lake isn't exactly that special of a ghost course. Visually, it's just another Ghost Valley theme, only slightly more interesting, maybe. I found Banshee Boardwalk to be better in all regards, to be honest, especially as an homage to those ghost tracks because it at least had things worth talking about, like the random house with bats flying at you. Though, I don't think Boo Lake is bad. I like the invisible bridge shortcut that you can get a glimpse of when the lights flicker, and is just the same path you'd be taking, but without a turn. But hey, at least there's a normal bridge shortcut that's a tight turn but leads to a meaningful skip. That makes up for it, I will admit. Though I'm not sure why the boos are holding candles when it's already pretty easy to see the course, and it doesn't add much to the atmosphere, but I still like them. They look friendly. But with that said, I gotta give the BCP its dues. It added the lake part of a course called Boo Lake. What a novel concept. Dare I say, it's better than Riverside Park's remake. It uses underwater driving pretty well, and using the final split pass on this incline where you get a shot of the moon as you burst out of the lake is actually quite good. I think that's enough to bump its score from a faulty course to a 57 out of 100. Something original takes priority and all that. Okay, so I was gassing up this game quite a bit, but it might seem ironic that I haven't made this course lineup sound too impressive. And even when I did, there was always a setback. But trust me when I say, Cheese Land is epic! A lot of people say that it gives the vibe that you're on the moon, ignoring the fact that there's already a moon right there, but okay. Personally, I prefer the idea of it taking place on an alien planet. I mean, think about it. You have a dark sky with a unique moon in the background. It has mice, which aren't seen anywhere else. It features a hill with a flag, implying that there's some kind of civilization that conquered this land. It has music that sounds ethereal for its theming. And it has the funniest speedrun I've ever seen in a video game. He died the moment he finished the race. 07, you legend. 27. In fact, what I don't see a lot of people talking about is that the moon in question is green, which is a clever play on the ancient myth of the moon being made of green cheese. This is another reason why I prefer the headcanon of it taking place on an alien planet, because the moon being green doesn't just make its theming creative, but inspired. But this course isn't just all style with no substance. The course itself is still really fun. Good turns, fun shortcuts, solid obstacles in the form of the aforementioned mice, fantastic music, it's the whole package. And you know what? I'm also gonna say it. I do not understand the hate for its remake in Mario Kart 8. I guess they made the setting less interesting, given that they deleted the moon for some reason. It still maintains the bouncy feel that those big ramps gave the original. It still has great music, and its theming is still just as strong as before. I mean, you drive under blocks of cheddar, do tricks off of cheese in the ground, and dash across mac and cheese sauce for a shortcut. Your counter-argument is objectively incorrect. Learn to have a little fun, because I had fun with both versions. So you know what? I think it deserves an awesome score of 89 out of 100. Not quite worthy of the supreme tier, but you'll see what's reserved for it. Jeez, Rick, it's another crappy Bowser's Castle, which is more or less the same as Bowser Castle 1, but easier. A Flower Cup course that ends off the Flower Cup. Easier than a Mushroom Cup course. Complete with gaps that you're never gonna cross, even with a mushroom. Which makes me wonder why they even bothered putting these holes in the first place. Especially with these straightaways with jumps that you can just avoid entirely and you'll be doing better. And even when you do, some of these lava pits inexplicably don't have fireballs popping out. And then they brought it back in Mario Kart DS for some reason. With unfinished music. Is this Bowser's Castle or Bowser's office? Though to give the DS version credit, I do like this spot where you can use the ramps to hop on the rail, but that ain't enough for me to like it. And just like with Bowser Castle 1, it's not a terrible course or anything, it's just boring. But given that it's doing the same thing twice, it's even more boring than Bowser Castle 1. I will admit that I think less of Mario Circuit because it is just a circuit course, and its remake was somehow just as uninspired, but Bowser Castle 2 has design choices that make it worse on a technical level, so it's gonna get a slightly lower score of 40 out of 100. Again, not horrible, but after the previous course, I expected more. Oh hey, there's the Luigi course. Everyone says that this course is pretty good, and I gotta say, their opinion's pretty good. I like the rain in all of its flickering glory. In fact, you know what? I want every single rain setting in video games to be flickering. None of this proper rendering like you see in DS and Tour. I want it to rain seizures. The layout is relatively standard outside the puddles, but then again, it is the Star Cup. Oh wait, no. It is the Lightning Cup, which means that the turns are gonna be relatively trickier. And to be fair, they kinda are. And I like how they would put item boxes in front of a few of the puddles, just so that you're forced to engage with the hazard at all times. It's good. Whether it's GBA or DS or even Tour, I like it. And because I played the Mario Kart DS version around the same time as Bowser's Inside Story, these houses always kind of reminded me of that one kaiju boss with a funny house mech. Like, am I the only one seeing this? Actually, I'm the only one not seeing it, because you're the one who can see the footage. So if you could take a good look at the screen right now, and then go down to the comments and tell me what you're seeing and what it's supposed to mean. I enjoy circuit courses with a unique vibe to it, so I think I'll give it a 66 out of 100. Yeah, I think that should work. But now we're at the biggest question I had before playing this game. Is Sky Garden the best course in Mario Kart Super Circuit? No. But it's still goated, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be a contrarian. Everything good you've heard about it, get it memorized. The music slaps, the aesthetic is gorgeous, the cloud terrain shortcuts are really dope, the bumps in the road are fun to bounce across, and the DS version is also fantastic. And it's also the only retro course that actually takes the game's physics into account. Not sure why the other courses couldn't have been better about this. Choco Island 2! But because of that, I think I might like the DS version a little more than the original. It's mainly due to the little things, like the item above the ramp feeling more like a conscious decision. Like, keep in mind, in DS, you are so much slower in the air than you are on the ground. Unlike in Super Circuit, where there's basically no reason to go around the U-turn. Like, it's just a longer turn, you won't be getting an item, and you don't have access to a shortcut, so why would you take it? Plus, the DS version has more more clouds for terrain shortcuts, so that's always nice. But either way, both versions are incredible, and I'm genuinely surprised we haven't seen Sky Garden since DS. Like, you think that a fan favorite course from 2 different games would be brought back in 8 Deluxe, or at least Tour, but no. Even the Booster Course Pass added Toady McToadbird Circuitry Baby 2 Toady McToadbird Balloon Galoo.
Oh wait, that's 3.
I guess Mario Kart 8 really did replace it with Cloud Top Cruise. Ah well, better to leave it at its best version than have the BCP ruin it. Dare I say, Sky Garden reigned supreme with a 91 out of 100. Was there ever any doubt? Although personally, I was surprised to see that Cheep Cheep Island is just kind of whatever. There's nothing poorly designed about it.
Oh. Okay. At least the crab didn't make me fall off, but that was actually kind of OD.
I like the shortcut for how execution heavy it is. I like the alternating paths that make you feel like you have to pay attention to the race, even though they do that thing from SNES Koopa Beach 1 where there's kind of no real incentive to take one path over the other. But I wouldn't exactly make the comparison that strongly, given that it isn't trying to gaslight you into being less linear than it actually is. But there are some other things that I kind of question. Like, I don't get why this dash panel needs to be here. You're never gonna land on it reliably, and it doesn't even age you that much, aside from, I guess, an item, which you're just gonna get very soon anyway, so it's like, what's the point? Plus, since its name is Cheep Cheep Island, this would have been the perfect time to have Cheep Cheeps hopping everywhere. Yet, for some reason, they don't? Like, it's a Cheep Cheep themed track. Where are the Cheep Cheeps? I mean, sure, they probably wouldn't be the most interesting hazards given that we've seen them done multiple times before, but there would at least be something resembling a theme outside of a giant Cheep Cheep in the background. But listen, Faker, you're never gonna be a better Cheep Cheep course than Lugubrious Pontoon, so stop trying. Or actually, no, shouldn't it be try harder? Well, whatever. This one just has less memorability than the beach track from the Mushroom Cup, which I felt had potential that this course could have helped expand upon, but nope. Instead, we get a course slapped with a 45 out of 100. Sorry for wanting a half-decent beach course in what's supposed to be a more difficult cup, I guess. Anyways, that's the last course I disliked, so let's talk about the other ones. Sunset Wilds is renowned as one of the best courses in the game. Its dynamic lighting transitions, its Southwest Canyon vibe, its awesome Shy Guy hazards, it's just so peak. 4 words you will never hear me say about Sunset. Like, don't get me wrong, it's good, but it's not much more than good. The turns are really simple, and I don't understand why these dash panels are placed directly in front of these little bumps that are always gonna make you leap right over them. And even when you do manage to touch one, it's not gonna make that much of an impact. So like, why are these here? However, I will admit that the Shy Guys are solid hazards. You might recognize these Shy Guys as functioning like Taylor Swift's X's, but what really makes them work are how the tents are between this string of dash panels, creating an adrenaline-rushing risk-reward aspect. This is always fun to race through, but the rest of the course is kinda style over substance, where the substance is still prevalent, but one that is ultimately just all style and not a whole lot else. Which is even weirder when you remember that it got its style removed in 8 Deluxe for what I can only assume to be for no reason. Look, it was already a baffling removal given that Tour had the sunset visual, but did nobody at Nintendo say, okay, we hear people complaining about this in the Booster Course Pass, so let's fix it in the next patch? You know, like they did with the cars in Coconut Mall, where they went from not moving to kinda moving? Was it really not possible to add a simple lighting effect in another patch? Which, if I remember correctly, would have required less coding? And why is the mud so shiny? It looks like Hollywood concrete. Is that the insult I really wanted to use? The dash panel placements are still mostly fine, and the dancing Shy Guys make for adequate, albeit less interesting hazards, but yeesh, talk about a downgrade. I still really like the original, but that remake really kills its score. 68 out of 100. Overall decent at worst, solid at best. Well, actually, it's remake at worst, solid at best, but... Oh, and I've also heard the theory that the Lightning Cup was supposed to be a reflection of going through another day. Wake up for a morning drive in Luigi's Circuit, frolic through a Sky Garden during the day, vibe with Cheep Cheeps on their island in the afternoon, and watch the sunset in the wilds. While I do think this theory holds weight and is pretty nifty, at the same time, I think it's kind of weird that it's being reserved for a single cup as opposed to being a more gradual theme prevalent throughout the game. Ah, well, no impact on my opinions on any course in this cup, I just wanted to talk about it. Snowland is this game's ice level, and they couldn't come up with a better name, so it must be crap, right? Especially since it has that screen shake. Although what not too many people seem to tell you, or even know about, is that there's actually a guaranteed strategy to get rid of the screen shake. Like Frappe Snowland, this one's going for a more warm winter vibe, but it gives off the vibe of it being a more familiar land where you know how to have fun there. The penguins are fine as obstacles, kind of like a worse version of Cheeseland's mice, but they still fit the theming since they're playing in the icy road. Top that with some ice puddles to avoid, a couple of alternating paths, this weird snowy trail thing, and you have yourself a pretty neat winter course. Oh, and about that screen shaking thing, I know I made fun of people earlier, but that could just be because I'm playing this on Nintendo Switch Online, as opposed to a proper GBA or even my DS, which can play GBA games. So from my experience, I barely noticed it to begin with, but ironically, I felt that it was much more prevalent in the Bowser's Castle courses because they were paired with an irritating chain noise. I hate this! So once you get that removed, I always have a hard time figuring out if I like this course or don't like it. Things like the alternating paths and icy puddles I like on paper, but whenever I play this course, I feel kind of underwhelmed? It's hard for me to describe, but something about its layout feels kinda messy. Kinda like it's trying to do multiple ideas at once and almost getting each one right. And I feel the same way about its glow up in 8 Deluxe. As pretty as the visuals look, I have a hard time finding the layout fun. In fact, I have a hard time remembering much of it. I like the idea of a more active winter wonderland / penguin paradise, but this is the only GBA course where I forget what I like about it, and one that I forget if I like the original or its remake more. Like Wade, Gwen, what do you think about this? Yes? Like, you're the editor, you're supposed to help clarify. Fine, whatever. I think for now I'll put it at a, 59 out of 100. There, first number that came up in my head. But I swear, for realsies this time, this will be the last course that I think is below decent. Everything else from here on out is great. Trust me on this. Ribbon Road is probably most known for its phenomenal remake in 8 Deluxe, but I would argue that the original holds up pretty well. I like the environment with the pretty red colors, and the presents work as decent obstacles on the already tight turns. It's fun trying to get the hang of this course, and it also has this notoriously big exploit very early on. Look at that, I just skipped like half the course. Though to be fair, you do need to hit the prior dash panel or have a mushroom, but this is Super Circuit physics at its finest and funniest. Game devs do not let you get away with something like this every day. Oh, and unlike Rainbow Road from Mario Kart 64, which was a dreadful experience and is only enjoyable because of an ultra shortcut, Ribbon Road is always a thrill to race on. But at the end of the day, it's still overshadowed by its much better remake, though it's not hard to see why. The ribbons making up the roads is inspired, especially since the ribbons have more color variations and wobble for tricks. The shortcuts are insanely challenging but really rewarding to get them right. The glider section is awesome with how you have to dodge these springy clown car toys. They don't hurt you, but they're very big and can still slow you down. The ending shortcut makes for some hype comebacks. The music's arrangement is much better than the original. Like, don't get me wrong, the original is great and features my beloved xylophone, but speeding up the tempo and adding a surfing guitar solo gives it so much more life. How can you not adore this? But even with all of that, I will not be sleeping on the original anytime soon. 80 out of 100. What a lovely time racing on Sherry as—
Okay, time out. We need to talk.
I was gonna say shoulders, but alright. Changing the topic, Yoshi Desert. Yoshi Desert. Yoshi Desert is so good! How come none of y'all never told me? I know people hate desert levels because— but y'all don't be appreciating ancient Egypt nearly enough. I mean, sure, I don't like every desert level, especially since I was pretty mixed on Calamari Desert, if you remember, but this one's fantastic. I like how you have to respect and pay attention to everything in this course. There are bumps and dash panels that can send you off-road if you don't take their distance into account. There's this weird barrier with a bunch of coins inside that you can either dash through, hop over, or simply drive through at the risk of slightly slowing down or running into the wall up ahead. Kinda reminds me of exploring a Great Pyramid, you know? And the piranha plants are great obstacles. Their range is very big, but not so big to a point where it feels unfair, and if you run into them, they spit you back onto the course. They only stand in the way of cuts you can make in the road, but what really makes all of these elements come together in a very nice bubble bath, because you can clearly have one of those in the middle of the desert, is the Oasis set piece. There's a blink and you'll miss it bump right by the Oasis. You'd think you can just casually take it, but there's a piranha plant right in front of the bump you need to take. But you can circumvent him in 3 different ways. Either use a mushroom, or if you got a mushroom much earlier, save it for the Oasis jump to dash right across it, grab an item box and pray to God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit that you'll get a mushroom or a star, or you can become the king of skill. And do it again.
Go a little further back.
It's such an amazing shortcut that is much harder to pull off than it looks. I genuinely hope this gets a remake of some kind, as there's a lot of potential for one. Tour already gave us a sufficient glimpse with the smaller ponds that can be used for coins and quick cuts, but I want to see how much further it can go, assuming you stick with being as faithful to the Super Circuit version as possible, instead of just rehashing the Tour version. Though it doesn't mean it'd be getting a lower score because I want to see said potential come to fruition. Pfft, nah, I'd give it a supreme score of 93 out of 100 regardless. But hey, you might think that's too high, but in my defense, it's got the Yoshi Sphinx. Who doesn't love that? Except for the contrarians in the comments that I'm just going to be ignoring because they're not interested in joining my membership program where you get these fun emotes as well as early access to videos. And a shout out in the end is that ending off the Star Cup is another Bowser's Castle. But it's different this time, I promise, because the sky is purple and the road is blue. The most overrated color of all time. Who said that? Don't worry, this one is actually kinda good. These bumps in the road are a cool set piece as they have fireballs popping out of them this time. And the last one you can even make for a really cool skip. That's much harder to do than it looks, even if you technically don't need a mushroom. At least in Wii.
I'ma do it. Oh!
I tried. Admittedly, I'm not sure which one I can say is more difficult, but play this game and tell me for yourself. I think the only thing stopping it from being a certified banger is that the ending is yet another boring straightaway with those stupid heck chains! But I still like the rest of the course well enough. The thwomp placements are really good, where they're always peeking their little heads out every time you turn. One of them even blocks an item. I like all the set pieces, aside from this random ramp that the Wii version added. No idea what this ramp is supposed to convey, but I guess you gotta shoehorn trick somehow. Just ignore the ramps that already had them. Otherwise, further cementing my opinion of this game being more similar to SNES Kart than 64 Kart, this game has 2 Bowser Castle tracks that suck, but the third one is really good. Only a 73 out of 100 good, but still pretty good. And now we get to possibly the best special cup in the series. Oh, you only boo me because you're afraid to admit that I'm right. In case I haven't made it clear, Super Circuit is a game that just gets better the more you play it, and this special cup reflects that very well. Not just because it has some of the game's best courses, but it even starts with its worst course, Lakeside Park. But saying that, it's still a very solid start. Definitely a natural expansion of Riverside Park, even having some of the wackiest shortcuts you'll ever see in any kart racer. And they just assume you can do it every time? Intelligent systems. You're incredible! I also like the volcano in the background directly affecting the track with those molten boulders. They're not tough to avoid, but you're forced to respect them at all times since you never know where they're gonna land. And there's also this one bump that if you mess up your drift, you have to do this whole climb all over again. Is this supposed to represent what happens when you fall off of a mountain when rock climbing? Because otherwise, I don't quite see the purpose of it.
Oi, f you. Oi, f you. Oi, fuck.
Look, I get that it's a special cup course, so no duh, it's difficult. But I do think it breaches into being a little too punishing. Even if the section you have to climb isn't that long, that just means it's doing that thing from Choco Mountain. A course I still really like in spite of it. And likewise, Lakeside Park is a solid course with fun turns and good hazards. 77 out of 100. I like it quite a bit. It's just that the other special cup courses are that good. But, you know, being considered inferior to Jesus is still being compared to Jesus. Though this next course probably isn't the best time to use Jesus as a comparison, given its haunting aesthetic. But with that said, Broken Pier is criminally slept on and, dare I say, underrated. If Boo Lake was a less inspired version of Lugubrious Pontoon, Broken Pier is a supreme version of Lugubrious Pontoon. Remember that one invisible bridge from Boo Lake? Imagine if there were more of them, and if they actually worked like shortcuts. Better yet, imagine if the Boos from Boo Lake acted as proper hazards like the Shy Guys from Sunset Wilds if you couldn't shake them off, making this one of, if not the only time where you're forced to worry about your coin count given how much easier it is to retain your coins in the other courses. Or better yet, what if there were bumps everywhere to create your own level skips? Or better yet, imagine if there was a dedicated mushroom shortcut completely off course with relatively strict timing. Put all of that together and you have one of the more intricate and tricky courses in the series. Not just with all of that, but the constant sharp turns and the dash panel that, if you're not prepared for, will actively screw you over, or at least make you hit the wall. It's like that one bump from Lakeside Park, but with a more reasonable punishment. Wow, it's almost as if you're racing on a pier that is broken, and you need to work with its layout in order to fix it. Okay, I outspokenly appreciate this take on the Ghost Valley theme. It feels like everything Boo Lake should have been, and then some. As difficult as it may be, when mastered or even just adequately practiced, it's one of the most enjoyably complex courses this game, nay the series, has to offer. 87 out of 100. I get why people think this course is really hard, but at the same time, welcome to the Special Cup, I guess. I mean, perhaps if it had better music or visuals, this would go right in the Supreme tier, but thankfully, this is the case for another course in this cup. It isn't this one, but Bowser's Castle 4 is still the best Bowser Castle course in the entire game. Even better than SNES Bowser Castle 3. Relatively speaking. The turns are as tight as ever, but the differing paths help it stand out. This first one has a section where you either take the longer route for an easier turn, or the quicker route with dash panels and an item box. But the turn is much tighter and specific, especially when trying to make this next path that clenches the moment you see it. Then there's the second one which, I'll admit, is kind of unnecessary given that I can't imagine a benefit to taking the outer path. It's longer by virtue of forcing you to turn twice as opposed to the inner path, which is faster, makes it easier to time the upcoming jump, and doesn't have those stupid hick J! But after said jump, you're smacked in the crosshairs that have some wandering Mecha Koopas, forcing you to react accordingly. But what makes this jump interesting is that, unlike every other bump, you cannot increase your height when using a mushroom. You have to deal with these. I also like the lava pits at the beginning, which have no ramps, meaning that you have to manually hop over them yourself. But be careful, they have fireballs. Yum! I'd also like to give a shout out to the tour version, which changes virtually everything, but in ways that I can still respect. Instead of the constant turns, you have these jagged ramps that force you to reposition yourself from time to time. And for the two differing paths, you have one where you can either go on the ramp to the lower end, or hop on the glider section to reach the top layer, and maybe do some extra tricks off of the leaning pillars with coins on them. Instead of Mecha Koopas, you're up against the biggest balls of them all. They also made it a one-lap track, which you'd think is weird given that the original wasn't particularly long, but they did the same thing with Wii Rainbow Road, which also had a normal 3-lap structure, so I reckon this was just to streamline it with the other tour tracks, so fair enough. Obviously, I prefer the original solely because the lava pits don't have ramps, unlike the tour version, but I still really like both. I think I'll give this course an 82 out of 100. Yeah, we got a little worse than the last course, but it's not by such a huge amount that it hinders the cup for me, especially since we're at the best course in the cup and Super Circuit's equivalent of the second coming of Christ. And hot take of the night is one of the best Rainbow Roads in this series. Actually, no, the second best Rainbow Road in all of Mario Kart. And yes, I know what's coming later, and I still stand by this. And I am directly showing both of those Rainbow Roads so y'all can start sweating over which one I'm referring to. Have fun, you little wankers! Remember that one bump and that one janky shortcut from Lakeside Park? Those bumps are all over the track, adding a new difficulty to the track that forces you to keep your reactions up to snuff and learn that you can drift in the air. Oh my Lanta, that goes hard! Remember the make your own skips aspect from Broken Pier? That is here and amplified to the extreme. Remember the differing paths from Bowser Castle 4? On Rainbow Road, everything is a differing path. Want to use a mushroom here? Want to skip the track like this? Go for it, old sport! The rainbow is your oyster! Plus you have the last group of dash panels that you can take for either a clutch comeback or just for style points as you dash towards the finish line. And that's not even accounting for the coolest shortcut in the game, where you have to hop over this floating platform here and get launched by a bunch of dash panels for an insane skip that you need to make sure your turn is timed well. Ideally, letting go of the gas should make this easier under most circumstances, and when you pull it off, you can still keep the shortcut going with enough skill. Like, listen to how much fun I've had playing on this course for the first time.
Okay, that's peak! That's peak! Whoa! Okay, whoa! And lift off! Actually, peak, look at this!
The only problems are that the lightning clouds are nothing obstacles, as the lightning is never gonna strike to hit you unless if you decide to let them hit you, and yet they're so small that they can still blindside you when you least expect it, and given how damn near every turn has a bump in the road, it can be a little too daunting at first. But when you get good, you feel like a galaxy brain genius that nails this course right in the supreme tier at a 92 out of 100. But is it really that impressive to be good on the Super Circuit version of Rainbow Road? Yes, because this is a rare talent that very few people on the planet are going to have. And if you disagree, I got a giant green Timberland about to blast some Adele music as it steps in loser. And that, braggers, is Mario Kart Super Circuit. Some call it a resident sleeper, I call it one of the sleeper hits of the Mario Kart series. Am I just saying that because I played it on Nintendo Switch Online where I can rewind the game like a reality warping god? Okay, I'd be lying if that didn't play a factor, but it also allowed me to get a better understanding and appreciation for this game's mechanics and course design. Like I said, there aren't a whole lot of tracks that do anything inherently wrong. The worst it gets is when it just doesn't try to feel like a unique course at all, or doesn't give you much incentive to travel around the game. But most of those are around the beginning. I feel that the further you get in the game, the better its course designs get, to a point where once you reach the Star Cup, the game has no bad courses. They all take advantage of the game's unique physics. They all feel like they were based around them, and that's what makes them so much fun to me. I think the only track that doesn't fit this mold from the Star Cup onward is Snowland, but even then, it has a couple of fun alternate routes and the turns are appropriately tight for its placement. I reckon you might find a new appreciation for this game as well. So if you got the cash to purchase the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, or if it's been a while since you touched this game, give it another go. You might be surprised by a few welcoming gifts. Oh look, it's a video I made that you should totally go and watch! Pit over there is dreaming about. Maybe he's learning to read there? Nah, he's definitely dreaming about Flora ice cream. Don't read too much into it. Oh sure, when my members make dad jokes, they get applause, but when I do it, I get nothing? Y'all suck!
What really killed the dinosaurs?
Me!